Look at the terraced streets of Sheffield. These are the physical boundaries of everyday life, built a century ago to house a workforce operating elbow to elbow. Move out toward the sprawling concrete grids of the Park Hill complex, and you see a different scale of community. Thousands of people, stacked vertically, sharing the exact same physical airspace. The people living behind these doors have never had more access to global information. Yet, if a streetlight breaks, or a park needs clearing, or a neighbor needs help, the infrastructure to communicate with the person living 3 doors down is often entirely absent. This structural gap leaves neighbors as strangers to the problems sitting right outside their front doors. It renders the knowledge and tools already present in a neighborhood entirely invisible to the people who need them. Solving this does not require another social network built for talking. It requires a new type of infrastructure designed to channel a neighborhood's latent energy into coordinated physical action. Seven Hills is the operational delivery system built to provide that infrastructure. It strips away the mechanics of the attention economy. There are no endless scrolling feeds. There are no algorithms optimizing for outrage, and there are no like buttons. The core metric of this system is horizontal agency. The software measures health strictly by neighbors pledging support and actively joining local initiatives. Seven Hills functions as the digital common land, a space where neighbors share the right to manage local problems and assets through direct collaboration. It manages this work through the Spark lifecycle, a rigorous, staged mechanism that converts a casual digital observation into a fully resourced physical project. By introducing structural friction, the architecture deliberately tilts the floor. It makes physical collaboration the path of least resistance. The journey begins in the Commons. This is the default entry point and public notice board, tightly restricted to a user's specific geographic neighborhood. Information arrives here as a signal. This is the rawest form of data in the ecosystem, a simple, unedited observation of a local problem or opportunity cast by a resident. Beneath every signal sits a bifurcated dock. Mode A handles standard community discussion, allowing neighbors to debate the issue and gather context. Mode B serves a different function. It is a construction tool that allows anyone in that discussion to formalize their idea into a written blueprint proposal. The platform explicitly supports multiple competing blueprints. They accumulate in a sticky stack beneath the thread while the debate continues. The Commons separates the noise of debate from the act of decision-making. Neighbors organically surface the most viable solution without prematurely forcing a consensus. When the original poster identifies the strongest solution, they execute an action called casting. This crystallizes the chosen blueprint into the official topic. That single action permanently archives all other draft proposals and locks the main discussion thread, concluding the debate phase. To prove this topic has actual community demand, it must cross a structural threshold. It requires 5 separate neighbors to formally pledge their support. Neighbors do this through an action called standing by, moving their status from observer to potential participant. The system interrupts this action with the 1453 protocol. Before a pledge is accepted, the user must answer 2 mandatory questions. Why does this issue matter? And what specific gift can they bring to solve it? This friction is intentional. It requires the user to locate their own internal compass before the software grants them the convenience of a click. This mechanic prevents Seven Hills from becoming a talking shop. Only genuine, resourced momentum survives the threshold. The moment the 5th neighbor stands by, the topic evolves into a spark. The initiative is now viable, but it remains paused. It requires a verified, connector-level member of the neighborhood to step forward and take responsibility for the outcome. When that leader executes the adopt and ignite command, they become the steward, immediately pushing the project into active logistics. This transition triggers a system law known as the conservation of attention. The newly ignited spark is automatically scrubbed from the public notice board for any user who pledged support. The software relocates the spark entirely into that user's personal My Impact inbox. This enforces a strict boundary between passive neighborhood discovery and active personal obligation. It keeps the public feed clear of clutter while protecting the user's focus for the work they actually committed to. The steward now takes control of the logistics, defining the exact personnel requirements by creating specific role slots, like heavy lifting or welcome support. The neighbors who pledge their support review these slots and use their previous intention answers to nominate themselves for the work. The steward reviews these nominations, assessing the offered gifts, and formally confirms the appropriate neighbors onto the active roster. Before any physical action can begin, the system forces a mandatory stop at the airlock. This is a non-negotiable safety checkpoint. The software requires every rostered member to explicitly confirm their physical availability and review any potential hazard warnings tied to the location or tasks. The steward must also complete the baton pass protocol, appointing a deputy from the crew to serve as a continuity lead if an emergency pulls the steward away. Only when all system checks clear does the steward executes the final mechanical action, closing the airlock and launching the mission. The airlock proves Seven Hills prioritizes physical safety and genuine operational readiness over frictionless software engagement. The project now enters active duty. This status indicates that real people are actively working on a street, in a park, or inside a community space. To support this work, the software splits into two distinct surfaces. The steward uses the huddle, a pure logistic surface for coordinating replacements and issuing safety halts. The crew uses the briefing, a calm, read-only summary listing their coworkers, role, and next useful action. Look closely at what is missing. There are no task assignment lists, no shift scheduling grids, and no project management workflows. Seven Hills supplies the exact minimum amount of structure required to bring people together safely. Once that is achieved, the software intentionally steps out of the way, allowing human coordination to take over. Expand this mechanic to the macro scale. Picture this operational flow running simultaneously across Sheffield's 147 distinct neighborhoods. By standardizing this process across the entire city, Sheffield effectively opens a civic grid of agency. It turns isolated acts of neighborhood care into a predictable, federated system for city-wide maintenance and mutual aid. The platform does not force anyone to act. It simply tilts the structural floor of the digital environment, making kindness, connection, and action easier to achieve than apathy. A raw observation typed onto a screen becomes a structured discussion, which becomes a resourced crew, resulting in physical boots on the ground. Seven Hills is a rejection of the attention-based machine. It provides a functional channel for the human capacity to fix, teach, and host, finally returning the digital map to the physical territory it was always meant to serve.